find out what Respekt has been doing, we went out on a journey around the country interviewing teachers. We wanted to find out the specific problems they had in their schools regarding sexual and reproductive health, their highlight with Respekt, their experience interacting with this program, and the impact, if any, for this program in their school.
I'm Madam Nelly Olo from St. John Chrysostom Kuda in Kisumu Central.
My name is Dennis Victor Cheriot from AIC Morob Girls Secondary School in Nakuru County.
I'm Ruth Wanjakiguru, the Deputy Principal in Idanga Secondary School.
In the recent past, we have had teenage pregnancy, and especially after students have come from holidays.
The teenage pregnancy, school dropout, sexually transmitted diseases, poverty.
Exposure to pornography because of the smartphones that the students have, so that one is quite rampant. We've also experienced issues of girls' teenage pregnancies, and it's unfortunate that some have even gone to the extent of abortions.
When Respekt came to our school, I expected them to help the students make informed decisions, be aware of their surroundings.
The Respekt team came and I heard their initiative. I was very excited. They went to the level of the students, they interacted with the students, and they were able to give me very positive feedback. And I was able now to, in fact, I made a complete turnaround about how I was dealing with the girls in terms of sexual and reproductive health.
The approach the Respekt team used on our school was very amazing. They were young people, so they were at the same level with the students. Yeah, they were able to reach same level ground with the students.
I liked the one-on-one approach. I liked that they would get a group of students and assign different counselors for different age groups. You know, when you lump them together, it becomes very difficult because the Form 1s have different problems, the Form 2s have their own problems, and then they were able to come up with a bonding session at the beginning, and the children would play and they would interact. And by the time they were through with the bonding session, they were telling them everything.
The project lived to my expectations and even surpassed what I expected them to do. The reports we got from the students was very encouraging, and we also saw a lot of change, positive change in the students. The students were more focused, and during that duration, the number of pregnancy cases actually dropped. Most students had the courage to even approach us when they had issues. Before the Respekt team came, they would be so timid. They would not want to air their private issues to us. But after the Respekt team came, they were bold. They were not shy of any situation. They would come, we discuss it.
There was one highlight by a student who always comes after, every time we open school. This student comes for debriefing because of the kind of violence that takes place at home. Her father is, violent towards the mother. But I think after having had, a talk from the Respekt team, this student was able to come and say, now they are able to handle it better.
Because of your visit, in fact, immediately after your visit, the secrecy behind the sexually transmitted infections ceased, and girls became very open. So they would come to the office and tell me, Madam, I have a discharge, or Madam, I have some, pimples around my private areas, and they were able to come out quite clearly.
Respekt is very important. It has helped us to manage our little budget because we don't pay anything. They have done it free of charge, and we have seen the results.
Respekt has had a tremendous impact on our school. Last year, we did not register any pregnancies. The year before, there's a year you skipped, I had about 10 girls who were expectant.
I have seen the positive change in our school, the positive change in our environment. So it's very, very important. We really appreciated it.
So there's need to include sexual health in the curriculum. In fact, it's long overdue.
The need for respect to be rolled out at the national level so that they reach out more students.
In fact, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. People may not notice how much we need sexual education in schools because parents have decided to keep quiet about it. Teachers also have decided to keep quiet about it. Nobody wants to talk about the birds and the bees, the nitty-gritty about sex. We all want to pretend it doesn't happen. We all want to pretend that our students are angels. We all want to pretend that they are babies, but that is not the case.
And I pray for Respekt to come back to our school and continue what they've been doing.
We would really like the team to come back again this year like this time.
Sylvia, and I'm in AIC Morobda Secondary School. My expectations when I saw the Respekt team, actually, I really wanted to learn a lot of things about the sexual reproductive health issues because, like, it's not easy for somebody like me to get that information.
My name is Rhoda Mayan. I'm from AIC Morobda Secondary School. I wanted to learn more from them about the reproductive and how to take care of myself and how to help others learn more from them.
Simply, when I heard about Respekt, it was something new to me, and my expectation was so huge. I was expecting to learn more from what I learned from school, and I did.
We were expecting them to be fun, be open to us, so that we can ask them the questions that we have.
My experience was good because actually the Respekt people are, actually you guys, you are open to us, and I really liked that.
I had a great experience with them. Actually, they were nice guys and they really made my day.
Yeah, it was encouraging. And it was so educative in that we were learning more, just like the thing that we were learning in biology, and it was nice.
The experience was that I learned new things from these guys. They were so open that I could ask them any question. What I like about your training is that you do it for fun and in a way that youth can enjoy. Yes. The training of Respekt people was so fun and open in that you are open and very, very, very concise of your work. What you did was out of passion. Yeah.
I liked everything. The fact that you are just telling us the facts. Like when there is a time we're discussing about boy-girl relationship, something like that. Like you guys were really telling us things which are happening, I learned that cervical cancer can be prevented through having the HPV vaccine at an early age. I also learned about the menstrual tract and actually drug abuse the first thing I learned is how ladies, we are supposed to put the pads in our panties, and then how we are supposed to just dispose them. Like, we are not supposed to just go and dispose them somewhere. Like, you're supposed to be somehow hygienic. Actually, there was a wide difference you guys brought to me, because before you guys came, I used to have low self-esteem, but the moment you came, I actually developed high self-esteem, and that one is good, because it even gave me a chance to go in various places, like in State House, and it's because of you guys.
Some of the things that I learned from the Respekt team, one is that we have to respect all people, no matter their gender. We as the boys, we have to respect the girls, no matter their gender.
If a woman is drunk, she's not in her sense. So you should respect her. Respect her decision when she's well and when she's drunk. When she's drunk and she wants it, you refuse. Consent. Yes.
This forum is very important because there are so many people out there who haven't been taught this topic, and maybe like me, I really learned a lot.
When we are at home, not all parents are so open to their kids that they'll explain everything just the way that you are explaining. So it's like we got the knowledge that we didn't get.
It's not like easy for a parent to just sit down with maybe a teenager and maybe they start speaking about, sexual health. So most of the parents, I don't know whether they have fear or I don't know what happens, but I think this forum should just continue, because you are just enlightening students outside there who do not know a lot of information about the sexual health. The Respekt people approach things as they are. They don't just go beating around the bush. They just keep it the way it is. So, and that is difficult for most of the people. Yeah.
Yes, I like the Respekt continue to come.
I like the Respekt association to come back.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, actually you should come back, because the information you're giving out is not just easy. Like, maybe you think it's easy, but you're actually doing a very nice thing.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Crystal Serena Bulavu, and I'm here on behalf of Project Respekt to invite you to our conference in Eldoret on the 18th of August 2021. The theme will be Drawing on the Power of Research in SRHR, and we hope to see you there. Cheers!
Hello. Good morning. Come on. Good morning. Are you happy to be here, or you are here to be happy? Which of the above? So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. If you do not know, we are being streamed live across the world. So people watching us from India to Kisumu Ndogo in Kisumu, you're welcome. I want to appreciate all of you for being here. I want to appreciate my former students, former schoolmates. Thank you for making it here. I want to appreciate representative from the Uasin Gishu County government who are here. I want to appreciate representative from Rafiki Center, everyone that has come today, Daktaris, and so I want to appreciate all the volunteers of Respekt for coming here today. And we are about to start. So you're all welcome. You can appreciate yourself by putting your hands together first. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Mbeyua Madegwa. I'm a former baby, former student, now a doctor, and I'll be your MC for today. So we're about to begin our keynote address, our opening ceremony. And to do so, I'd like us to put our hands together and welcome the one and only Fadila. She's also a former baby like me, and currently she's referred to as a whole babe. And she's a student at the University of Nairobi, doing the MB-CHB program. She's in between 4th year and 5th year. I do not know which one. She recently graduated as a data scientist. She's the founder of Tubonge, if you've heard of Tubonge mental health program. She's also in the PCT Respekt. She's a holder of a BSc in anatomy, and she's also a very loving sister. So welcome, Fadila. Let's put our hands together for Fadila. After Fadila, we will be having our keynote address live and direct by Irungu Hut on the Amnesty. So welcome, Fadila.
Good morning. I'll just repeat my name again. I'm Fadila, and I just want to keep my introduction really short. For those of you who don't know anything about Respekt, I've prepared a short but sweet story for you. When I was 13, I joined a boarding school, an all-girls boarding school, and we never had any sex education. And I remember the first experience of learning about sex was when my deskmate was expelled from my high school because they thought she was a lesbian. And another deskmate of mine told me that she had started having sex, but she doesn't know where she can get a condom. And I want you to think back right now, as I tell you about Respekt, to your own first experience of when you learned about sex, and whether that experience was helpful to you, or maybe you would have wanted someone else to hold your hand. That's what Respekt does. We hold the teenagers' hands and we tell them, you know what? Sex is normal and it's okay. These are the things that you need to know. Welcome to the Respekt Conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We can appreciate her better. Let's just put our energy right at, we are at 4. We can reach at 6, right? So let's do that better. 6. That's more like 5, so we can do better. Thank you. Next up, we will be having our keynote address. And as you know, this is a hybrid international standard conference. Our keynote address will be virtual. And as our IET team is setting that up, our keynote speaker is Irungu Hutton. He's the Executive Director, Amnesty International, Kenya. He's also an author and columnist. So ladies and gentlemen, I know he is live, so let us put our hands together and welcome Irungu Hutton. Thank you.
Great, and good morning to everybody from Amnesty International Kenya. Let me just check whether you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent, okay. So once again, greetings from Amnesty International, a 60-year-old global movement of 10 million human rights defenders. We too are part of a bigger movement that I include Respekt, the project Respekt and the project, the Respekt movement as part of, that believes that increased sexuality education, effective contraception, and safe abortion services will eliminate the deaths and despair that are caused by poor maternal health services, sexuality ignorance, and unsafe abortion. So we very warmly associate ourselves with every one of you following in Eldoret, every one of you that has been part of the Kisumu event yesterday, and those of you who will be part of Nairobi tomorrow, as well as all of you who are watching us online. We believe that women who are pregnant are best placed to make decisions about their pregnancy, and that the state, as a matter of human rights, must support them with the full range of services that they need. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to make 4 points. The first is that statistics matter, but narratives matter even more. The second is that whereas research is important and critical, applied research is really what we need to focus our attention on in terms of capacities and ability to make a difference. I'll talk a little bit about the ethics of research, and then lastly, I will end up with making an argument that rather than information that has power, it is really imagination that has most power. And I will probably end with a call to all of us to really think about how powerfully we can reimagine the societies that we live in and create them very consciously. So I'm going to kick off, and hopefully I will take no more than 10 to 15 minutes. So the first obvious point is that statistics have been around with us for about 500 years, whether it be the 14th century Moroccan traveler Ibn Battuta or the European experts. Scientists and researchers have basically been following population trends for over 500 years. And the art of opinion polling, the study of public perceptions, actually celebrated a century a year or two ago. There is no modern state that exists that is complete without the capacity to interpret, to generate, and then interpret data. And therefore, we have to recognize that this is an old industry. But I think the other important point about this is that we are fast approaching a post-statistical mindset. Research tools have become much more sophisticated and much more democratized. Anybody can have access to graphs, formula, maps, and infographics. But the thing that we have to recognize is that in some ways, we are in 2021 very much like it was back in the 14th century when Ibn Battuta was working to generate knowledge and to inform policymakers on how societies could be managed or could be governed, which is that facts are increasingly untrustworthy. They are even insulting to some and to very many people, including perhaps some of you sitting there listening to me right now. Statistics and facts and the conversation about research is even unsexy, right? There are some of us who argue that by grounding our policies and politics in statistics, we are being elitist, we are being undemocratic, and we are being insensitive to the specific experiences of people and their perceptions. And some of this comes from a powerful place. Many campaigns over the last 2 years or 3 years of Say Their Name, police brutality, or gender-based violence, the Me Too campaigns, come from a legitimate argument that we are losing the human experience. We are increasingly seeing human interest anecdotes, opinions, and even our prejudices seem and become much more powerful than verifiable data. Let me give 2 examples where this is critical for our work. The age of consent, a raging debate about whether it should be lowered, primarily to ensure that the state can provide contraceptives to teenagers who need them and who desire them, not necessarily mandatorily. Or the fact that 2/3 of our maternal deaths are still as a result of what we call bad health management practices. They are the result of severe bleeding, infections, high blood pressure, and for sadly too many women and girls, unsafe abortions. If I was to summarize this moment, I would probably argue that many of us are simply are basically pushing the argument that give me my emotions over the facts about anything that matters to me, whether it be my least favorite political candidates. And of course, as Kenyans, we're about to go into the election season. Feed my emotions about my least favorite or my hated political candidate. Feed my emotions about abortion. Feed my emotions about LGBTIQ plus communities or persons, rather than simply what are the facts, what is the information, what are the experiences of people that we are discussing about. So this is the first point, is how do we deal with the issue of post-statistical mindsets? The second point relates to the profoundly political nature of information. A year or two ago, Tanzanian President Magufuli openly declared that he would only tolerate official government statistics. Now, of course, this played out in the context of COVID-19 horrifically for hundreds of thousands of Tanzanians. Anti-corruption blogger Charles Gishuki, who was arrested in August 2020, and Amnesty had the opportunity to protect him, published a website called the Anti-Corruption Tracker website, where he argued that something like 2 billion shillings was lost every day. He found himself a guest of the state. No less than 10 officers came to his home. They seized his laptops. They seized the laptops of his wife. And I believe they even took an iPad that his child had been using. 2 years later, the head of state himself declared sensationally that we lose 2 billion shillings per day to corruption, but did not receive the same treatment. And the point here is really that we have to see information as profoundly political, right? And who generates, who informs the nation becomes a matter either of censure or a matter of celebration. Now, let me turn to the third point I think that I wanted to raise this morning, and I hope that this generates a conversation. Much of the statistics, much of the information that is used to inform public policy is national in character. It tends to slice around specific issues rather than interconnect those issues. So if you look at some of the studies that the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics undertake, and they are critical resources for policy planners, for public advocacy advocates like ourselves, for people who are concerned in social justice issues, much of that data categorizes people alongside class, gender, generational, ethnic, perhaps, identity-based, and geographical lines. The lived experience of humans is not that neat, right? We live as human beings in the intersection of several identities. I am male, I am heterosexual, I am 55 years of age, I am a grandfather, but I like technology, particularly digital technology and gadgetry, perhaps as much as any 20-year-old. I am a feminist, right? Despite of all the other things I've just said. My name is Kikuyu and Anglo-Saxon, yet I do not associate with those two identities as my first identity. The point that I'm trying to make here is that it is critical that we basically are able to look at the intersectionalities of our identities and capture that most powerfully for people. Typically, historically, states have used population data to control women's fertility. I don't believe that this has fundamentally changed, that the population debate has largely been defined by the extent to which we reduce populations rather than we understand populations. So just to give you an example, and of course I'm speaking very generically, so I know there are many people in the room and are listening to us online that are doing exactly the opposite. But let me just speak to the typical arguments. It is critical for us to understand now that there are many forms of families. 50 years ago, the idea that they were single-parent households, that they were households that were made up of people of the same sex that were cohabiting, or that they were gay couples with children, this would have been an anathema. And for some of us, even listening to me now, you're probably wondering, Irung, where are you going with this? But the point that I'm trying to make is that statistics, particularly national statistics, more often than not, do not capture the minorities. They do not capture the marginalized or those that are stigmatized by the majority practices, or those that are excluded, or those that are ignored by the powerful in society. But this experience is very well known by those of us who work on sexual and reproductive health rights. For those of us who don't have access to comprehensive sex education that is age appropriate, that those of us who don't have access to a safe abortion when we require it, or under the law, we are obliged to have it. Or for those of us who are worried or experience a lack of safety and dignity as a person who loves a person of the same sex as ourselves. So I think it is really critical for us to begin to use research to uncover the hidden stories, the hidden narratives, and essentially allow those voices to become heard, to be informed policy, and essentially to say that they too, not just the homogenized millions of people, that they too matter in our society. The fourth point, and I'm coming to the end of the presentation, is really to think about, what in 10 or 15 years ago in Oxfam, we used to talk about killer facts. Now, killer facts are not facts that kill people, but they are facts that essentially stop you in your tracks. And Oxfam made this argument that actually the most powerful researchers are those that are able to do two or three things. The first is to organize facts in a way in which it is so palpable that you have a sense of the need for change, right? What Martin Luther King called the urgency of now. So it's not just about generating facts, it's about generating and organizing those facts in a way that it creates an urgency to do something. During the last population conference that took place in Nairobi, I wrote an article, and one of the things I was trying to think about in the context of the population conference, because if you remember it, there was so much disinformation and, I guess, competing narratives around the conference on a number of issues. And I respect all the narratives. I respect all the positions that were argued. What I didn't respect was the blatant creation of lies and exaggeration in order to make points. But I can respect the arguments that people had, or the differing arguments that were there. And one of the killer facts, or a number of the killer facts that I came across, which I thought were really powerful, was that in the duration of the population conference, 3,000 Kenyan girls between the age of 10 and 19 had unprotected sex. 105 of these girls then dropped out of school, and 3 of them would have died from pregnancy-related complications. 3,600 women and girls would have had abortions, and 45% of those girls would have been between the ages of 10 and 19. During those very few days of the conference, 9 people would have been raped. 45 people would have been defiled. And the statistic that really broke my heart, less than 10 of those cases, less than 10 out of the 54 cases of rape and defilement, less than 10 of those cases will lead to convictions. Organizing facts is probably the most important as a campaigner, as a researcher, as somebody who is interested in social justice. But it is really important that we do not exaggerate the truth. The last point that I want to come to is really the point around the difference between information and imagination. Information obviously is facts and the organization of those facts or research into what has happened. But by definition, it will be a statement about the past. It'll either be the far past or it'll be the immediate past. It is something that has just happened. I fell over is a statement about the past. And therefore, it can inform me about what to do next or how to protect myself. But that conversation is not a conversation around information. It's a conversation about imagination. And it is a conversation about what could be, and that it is in the what could be, what is possible, what we can do about the issue, that really the power really lies. So the last thing I wanted to mention here is that social justice agency, the power to transform a society, the power to advocate, the power to change the lived experiences of young people like yourselves, is a first and foremost an opportunity to reimagine what could be. So the question, obviously, that I will leave you in that room, and I hope we can discuss in the course of the day, is what is it that we can introduce in the way that we think that is ethical, based on the truth, but not trapped by the truth, that which we see around us, but is a landing point or a takeoff point for a conversation about what could be, what we could reimagine. So informing the public about any of the issues related to sexual and reproductive health rights is not of value in itself. It is only valuable when it increases public awareness, yes, but secondly, it increases a demand for the enforcement of the rights and the freedoms and the responsibilities that are in Article 43 of our Constitution, the Health Act, and the Patients Charter. And on the basis of this, I invite you to spend the next few hours together discussing how we can do this powerfully as sexual and reproductive health specialists. The last thing I want to say is that there was somebody misspoke at the beginning and they introduced me as Dr. Irungu. Let me just end by saying that I am not a doctor, and I don't actually believe that I need a PhD to be able to speak on issues of sexual and reproductive health rights. Why do I say that? Because the millions of people whose lives are affected by this issue don't have doctorates. Anti-education, I'm not anti-doctorates. I simply say that the more we can democratize the conversation around sexual and reproductive health rights and place those people who are affected by this issue in the center of this conversation, listen to them, the more we will get to the truth and the heart of a matter in a way that we can actually keep people's lives safe and keep people's lives dignified. I thank you very much on behalf of Amnesty International for the opportunity to open this day, the second day of the Respekt conferences. I wish you courage, I wish you vision, I wish you boldness, and I wish you the agency to create a society better than the one that you were born into. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think we can do better. Where I do come from, it's a certain part of this country. We are very particular about things that have wings. So when I do this, you must clap, and you must clap until I get tired, because where I come from, we don't get tired. So we can start clapping. Thank you. We'll do better next time. So thank you so much, Irungu. It's so easy to call you Daktari. I hope you do not mind. But thank you so much, Irungu. Before he logs off, before he gets offline, I'd like anyone who has a question for Irungu, Amnesty International. Anyone? I believe that is an appreciation of the clarity of Bidian. Do you have a question? Yes, thank you. You can use this mic.
Thank you very much. Calling Dr. Irungu for a while. As Mbeya has decided that we are giving a doctorate degree now. Should we open a university, I guess? I just wanted to ask how you do it as a person that you are, who sure you also have a family and you are out there respected and everything, but then on the other side, you're also in the activism in itself. Just sort of a tough balance, because it seems when you're trying to push for policies, people have to seemingly choose whether they want to be in the boardroom or whether they also want to be in the streets to push for them through demonstrations, through rap, through walks, murals, and everything. But for some reasons, you're in both sides. So how do you balance those interests so that you ensure you are able to be calm enough and be invited by duty bearers to attend some of these things in the boardroom, but also at the same time, you're able to push for some of these changes through some of the streets advocacy? So how do you find that balance? Thank you.
Thank you, Bidian. Back to you, Irungu.
Great. So thank you, Bidiam, for the doctorate, first and foremost. Secondly, so I guess you've asked two questions, I think, in one. The first one is, how do I balance the personal and the professional? And I think the first recognition is that, we are human beings, first and foremost, and that our values and our ethics really should not be situation-based. They shouldn't be only present in workspaces or in our professions, and not present in our personal lives. So in a sense, I hope I am able to maintain a sense of ethics and integrity in all the spaces that I go in. And obviously this is not easy, but it is the desired ideal. So that's the first thing. So my sense of justice doesn't stop when I remove my Amnesty t-shirt. It pervades this work. I often say that I was a human rights defender first, and then I joined Amnesty International. I will leave Amnesty International and I will retire as a human rights defender. And I hope that my family is inspired by this, that they are definitely supportive of this. I have very little tensions with my immediate family. I used to have a lot of tensions with uncles and aunties who just thought that I should have studied law, bought several cars, had several girlfriends, and moved to Runda in Nairobi. And unfortunately, I have disappointed them, I hope, thoroughly. The second question relates to kind of professionalism and how we engage with boardrooms and the streets. And I also, I argue here that it's actually really important to keep one foot in either. My professional career was very much it started off in the streets. It started off with, democracy struggles, struggles against gender-based violence in the 1990s. I spent 5 years of my life as an adult educator, essentially trying to reduce levels of gender-based violence, inspired by horrified actually by the St. Kizito killings back in, I think it was 1991, 1992. And then I moved into policy discourse. And for about 20 years, I spent a lot of my time advising governments on everything, including the Maputo Protocol on sexual and reproductive health rights. I was working for Oxfam at that time. I made representation to a ministerial on why this was such an important protocol, and various other things. I could go on, but just to say that I spent a lot of time advising governments on implementation of African Union standards, among other things. In 2015, I walked onto the playground of Langata Road Primary School, armed with a lot of policy analysis, armed with a lot of concern for universal primary education. And ultimately, what I learned on that playground was that policies matter, but what is much more important is public opinion and political will. And politicians have told me many, many times, Irungu, if you want us to take action on this, create the political will for us to take action. We know what you're saying is correct, but there is no political benefit for us to take these bold moves. By definition, politicians and definitely bureaucrats or civil servants are conservative by nature. What they need is to have a nation or a public momentum that allows them to do what is not only right, but what they will get political benefit from, political mileage from. And once I understood that, it changed the way that I worked, right? Which is that I am constantly seeking that middle ground in society that is concerned about an issue, that is willing to non-violently and intellectually, and when I say intellectually, I don't mean with doctorates, I mean through the expression of ideas and imagination, demonstrate that there is something we can do about this. And that authenticity works both in the streets, it works with creatives, it works with policymakers, and it definitely works in the policy boardrooms, right? So I can be as comfortable sitting across a table from the entire leadership of the criminal justice system talking about police brutality and the need to bring that to an end, can be on the streets organizing the survivors and the families of victims who have experienced loss as a result of the killings of their loved ones. So I think this is my theory of change. Everybody has an opportunity to create theirs. Mine has worked for me. It has also worked for Amnesty in many cases, and therefore I offer it to all of you individually and collectively.
Thank you so much. I think we can appreciate Irungu and we can appreciate Bidian for the question. Thank you so much, Irungu. Thank you. We appreciate you very much. Half of the audience in this hall, in this conference right now, you talked about starting off in the 90s. Half of them were not born. And we appreciate the work you're doing. We appreciate your partnership, your stakeholder engagement with Respekt, and we hope to continue working with you. And you can even consider working with us on a closer level. I think you're hitting, you talked about being in your second century of your life, starting your second half century of your life, but we appreciate your embrace for technology. I think that stream has been brilliant. Hatujakuwa tukisikia ati, oh no, I'm supposed to talk in English anyway. It's been seamless, it's been beautiful. Your setup is nice, we appreciate you. Thank you so much, Irungu. We can appreciate him one last time.
Maybe just in closing, if I can.
Yes, yes, please.
Just to say that, I believe that one of the things that we are given by the fact that we are human beings is the opportunity to network and to build relationships across different movements. So I would be remiss by not inviting everybody who's watching, who's there in Eldoret, who will be watching this broadcast for years to come, to not invite you all to become members of Amnesty Kenya.org. So you just go to the website and essentially join Amnesty as members. And if there is a membership structure for Respekt, I would be honored and very pleased to join the Respekt project. I do hope our two initiatives can continue to work together to keep girls and boys safe, but also to keep those adults that are either in the first century, half century of their lives, or in the second century of their lives, safe and dignified as we go through it. Thank you very much for this, and good luck with the rest of the conference. Be bold, be imaginative, and essentially protect us all.
Thank you so much. We can appreciate Irungu as he logs off. Please continue to follow the conference online. Thank you so much. Asante sana. Now, as we said, we have we can appreciate the organizers of this conference. We have a well-organized hybrid conference. We've just been able to get a keynote address virtually, and that's amazing, right? So as we continue to stream online, you can tell your friends to follow. You can, for those of us online, following us online, you can like, share, subscribe, comment, what else? Welcome to our YouTube channel. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, speaking of being online, or when you see the camera facing you, please do not remove your mask. You're beautiful even with a mask. Do not doubt yourself. You are extremely beautiful. It is because we are holding this conference on international standards, keeping in mind COVID-19 guidelines. So please keep your mask on at all times. There are sanitizers on each and every table. If yours is not working, we can supply you with another. Please sanitize as often as possible, maintain social distance, and we appreciate you, right? Thank you so much, and clap for yourself for keeping the instructions. Thank you. It's like you don't like yourself. That clap is not for someone who likes themselves. But anyway, next up, after our keynote address, we need to be welcomed officially to Uasin Gishu County. We are sorry for skipping that fast, but in our invitee, in our midst, we have great women and men from the Uasin Gishu County government. And as we continue, we just want to welcome them to come and welcome us to this conference and to this wonderful. This is the home of the Source of Champions. The home. Yes, this is the home of champions. So in our midst, we have the Deputy Director, Nursing Services, County Government of Uasin Gishu, Betty Churchill. Please, let's clap for her. And the Sub-County Public Health Nurse, Tarbo Sub-County, Jessica Molema. So let's appreciate them as she comes. Thank you so much. They will welcome us, or she will welcome us to the county. And yes, welcome.
Okay, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Tuko pamoja? Yes, unajua sauti iko chini sana. Okay, welcome to Uasin Gishu County. I know it is cold. So my name is Betty Chirchir, Deputy Director Nursing Services. And on behalf of the Department of Health, I would like to welcome you all to Uasin Gishu County for this conference. We are so privileged to host you people here. And I can say personally also, I'm privileged to be part of you, to join a youth conference. We are so happy. I know concerning the adolescents and youth, there has been a lot of issues. There's been concerns about the teenage pregnancy, which has been in the rise, both countrywide and also a concern in Uasin Gishu County. And more so during the emergence of the COVID-19. You remember the time that when we had the lockdown, there was an outcry in the media, outcry in the society about increased teenage pregnancies. However, we need to ask ourselves, why was there an increase in teenage pregnancy? It means there is a gap somewhere. And that is why I said I'm happy today to be part of this meeting, because I know we are going to be able to discuss, we are going to share experiences, and we'll be able to identify what are these gaps that we have that we need to address. We know our youths, they are not empowered. They don't know about their sexual reproductive health rights. And that is why they fall victims of the teenage pregnancies. There are issues also to do with the systems and the institutions. Currently, we also, in the health profession, we face some challenges. Like we have the adolescents reproductive health policy. The current one that we are using is giving us a challenge even us as the healthcare workers, because the policy is telling us that the adolescent, anybody less than 18 years is a child, Cindy. Yes, and that child, it means the child is not able to give a consent before we provide a family planning method. So we need a parent to give us the consent. But how many parents are willing to bring the adolescents for family planning? Very few. And even if they are willing, when we go again to the issues of the child, you know, the child is also protected by the law. The child has its own, has their own rights, and sometimes also the parents have a challenge to even give that consent for that, to give a consent on behalf of that child. So there are quite a number of things that needs to be addressed so that we are able to address the sexual reproductive health issues for the adolescents. We know the consequences of the teenage pregnancy, the school dropouts, infections, HIV infections, the unintended pregnancies. We have abortions. And you realize even when it comes to the abortion, most of them are unsafe abortions. And we end up losing the teenage mothers. They move ahead with the pregnancy. We end up getting complications during childbirth. And I know that if the teenagers, if the adolescents and the youth are empowered with the knowledge and they know what is expected of them, we'll be able to bring an end to these adverse effects that are resulting from the unintended pregnancies or the teenage pregnancies. Okay, another thing is I would like to say The theme for today, this is a well-thought theme, that is drawing on the power of research. We need to have facts, to have information so that we are able to implement the right strategies to reach this youth, to empower these youth, and even to provide the necessary services to these youth. Because the youth, they are the leaders of, is it even tomorrow or today? Today, Cindy? Yes. So we need to take care of the youth in our society. And I really appreciate for the theme of today. And as we continue, we are going to learn more. We are going to share. Our CEC and the Deputy Governor, they'll be joining us at around 11 a.m. They are committed elsewhere right now. So I think by that time, they'll be able to talk more. Otherwise, you are all welcome to Uasin-Gishu County. Let me recognize my colleague, Jessica Mwelema. Maybe you could just stand and wave. She's our sub-county public health nurse, but currently standing in for our reproductive health coordinator. We also have our director, Dr. Rotich. Possibly he has not arrived, but when he comes, he'll be able just to say hi. But we can go ahead with the meeting. Karibuni sana Uasin-Gishu. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Uasin-Gishu County Government. It's a pleasure working with you as a stakeholder. For those of us who've been working in SRHR in this county, among other stakeholders, Uasin-Gishu has always been welcoming. Thank you so much for keeping up. For those of us who are starting to feel the effects of hypoglycemia, do not worry. We have you covered. In about a few minutes, you'll have your tea break. But before that, Respekt Kenya is a product of partnership between the Medical Student Association of Kenya and its sister program in Denmark. So as we move forward with the program, we want to hear from our partners in Denmark. IT, please.
Hi, my name is Marie My, and I was part of IMCC and part of the group that started Project Respekt together with the group from MSAGE. Right now, I'm in my apartment in Copenhagen, where I've been so lucky to host many of the members of the Project Respekt working group. And if you are ever in Copenhagen, let me know and I will invite you in and make you some Danish food. So back in 2015, I was part of the group making the pre-study for what come to be the Project Respekt. And actually this was my first visit ever to an African country, and it made a great impression on me. It was amazing being with the group and having them show me around and getting to know. In 2015, I was part of the group making the pre-study for what come to be the Project Respekt. And actually this was my first visit ever to an African country, and it made a great impression on me. It was amazing being with the group and having them show me around and getting to know. In 2015, I was part of the group making the pre-study for what come to be the Project Respekt. And actually this was my first visit ever to an African country, and it made a great impression on me. It was amazing being with the group and having them show me around and getting to know. In 2015, I was part of the group making the pre-study for what come to be the Project Respekt. And actually this was my first visit ever to an African country, and it made a great impression on me. It was amazing being with the group and having them show me around and getting to know. In 2015, I was part of the group making the pre-study for what come to be the Project Respekt. And actually this was my first visit ever to an African country, and it made a great impression on me. It was amazing being with the group and having them show me around and getting to know. In 2015, I was part of the group making the pre-study for what come to be the Project Respekt. And actually, this was my first visit ever to an African country, and it made a great impression on me. It was amazing being with.
Unfortunately, we're having a bit of a technical issue, but do not worry. We are our IT team is working on it, and we will be able to play the video in a little while. Yes, don't worry about that. It's part of the process, and we need to trust the process. Arsenal fans will tell you that. Trust the process. That was a joke I rehearsed the whole night. You should have laughed, Bana. Support me, Bana. Support me. I rehearsed that the whole night. Anyway, thank you for coming. Thank you for appreciating me. I want to choose on one person, and yes, I will choose on the most beautiful one. So if I don't choose on you, I will go for convenience rather than beauty. Yes, Angie, because when I could this now nisame. So what's the theme of this conference? You haven't crammed it. Okay, you can say what you know.
It's about research, the impact of research in SRHR.
Thank you so much. Personally, like Irungu said, I'm not a fan of academicians. I'm not a fan of research as such. But you know, we have to practice evidence-based, right? We have to practice things that are with papers and those stuff, right? We have to know, we have to have evidence for everything that we do. And as Respekt, as a project, we are anchored in research, and that was the main aim of this Eldoret conference. Kisumu was all about advocacy, Eldoret is all about research, and Nairobi is all about stakeholders. So now, because we are serious about research, we have a few abstract presentation with us, and I would like to welcome Lucien Odero. I hope I pronounced that right. They will correct if I'm wrong. So ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for our first abstract presentation of the day. Please, you're welcome. Until she reaches here. I see Fadhili, the enthusiast of research. The enthusiast of research, Fadhili, is leading there. Thank you, Fadhili. You're welcome.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Lucian Odiero. I'm a fourth-year medical student at the University of Nairobi and a member of REMED. And I'll be presenting on the knowledge and attitude of the Kenyan teenager towards sexual and reproductive health. And this is a literature review. So this is the outline of my study, of our presentation. So adolescent stage, it's a transitional stage from childhood to adulthood, and it's characterized by physiological, cognitive, and social developmental changes. And during this period, adolescents become aware of their sexuality. But nowadays, adolescents experience puberty at younger ages, mainly due to improved healthcare and improved nutrition. So this leads to an earlier sexual debut among these teenagers, and is associated with sexual and reproductive health problems. So many studies have shown that there are many different and numerous sexual and reproductive health problems, but there are two that have been noted to be profound, to have a profound impact on the sexual and reproductive lives of these teenagers. And those are teenage pregnancies and STIs, and these lead to an increased demand for sexual health and services and information among for the teenagers. The adolescents constitute about 16% of the world's population and 26% of our Kenyan population. So because of their large numbers, poor reproductive health among them is a major public health concern. Yet the reproductive health of these teenagers have been grossly grossly ignored. So to add on to this, there's a dearth of data in the Kenyan setting on the knowledge and attitude of these teenagers on SRH, and of the existing little data, that there's conflicting information. So please go back to the next slide, to the previous slide. So this necessitates a review of the existing literature in order for us to know the level of these teenagers' knowledge on SRH, and also for us to aid in planning of sensitization programs. Next slide. So my objectives are to summarize and determine the general knowledge and attitude of the Kenyan teenager on SRH, and to assess the knowledge and attitude of accessing health services and information. Next slide. We used PubMed, Google Scholar, and Hinari databases to search for the following terms as shown: pregnancy, STIs, HIV, etc. Next slide. So, as earlier mentioned, now to the discussion, as earlier mentioned, many studies will focus on knowledge and attitude of the three profound issues that many studies noted to have a large impact on the sexual and reproductive lives of the teenagers. So I'll start with knowledge of these teenagers on HIV and AIDS. There's a study that HIV and AIDS indicator survey that was done in 2007 showed that the prevalence of HIV among the teenagers was 3.8%. So most of the studies that we came across not only focused on the general knowledge of these teenagers on STIs and HIV, but also on the prevention methods that they used. So the local data showed that there was a lot of discrepancy in that some showed that the teenagers had good knowledge and some showed that they had poor knowledge. For those that reported good knowledge, the most commonly known prevention strategies that these teenagers knew were use of condoms and abstinence. And on knowledge of STIs, most of the teenagers showed to be conversant with the different types of STIs as shown in the slide. And this discrepancy may have been due to educational programs organized by individual organizations that may have facilitated the sessions on the same. Next slide. So on attitude towards STIs and HIV, as much as there was a lot of discrepancy on the knowledge of these teenagers on their STIs and HIV, most studies showed that the knowledge may have been good, but these teenagers' sexual activity was high and sporadic. So it was not protective of HIV and AIDS. So they knew that they knew about the prevention strategies, but they did not apply them. So the results demonstrated that the knowledge does not correlate to the practice, and therefore more efforts are required to understand and address barriers limiting the practice. For example, peer pressure. Next slide. So studies showed that adolescent pregnancy in Kenya is a really big problem, with a teenage pregnancy rate of 18%. So when this interviewed, and most of the adolescents, about 13,000 girls drop out of school annually due to early and unintended pregnancy. So when these teenagers were interviewed, most claimed to have received information on reproductive health, but there was high doubt on this because on the accuracy of this information, because only 1 in 10 could identify correctly identify the fertile period in a woman's monthly reproductive cycle, among other things. And so this was worrisome, and it warrants further sensitization. Next slide. So teenagers mainly claim to not intend, they do not intend to get pregnant, but they mostly predispose themselves to conditions that will lead them to be pregnant. And this is mostly attributed to peer pressure and some social environmental related factors like inappropriate forms of recreation, like night partying, etc., that would act as rendezvous for premarital sex. And this adds on to explains why we have a high teenage pregnancy rate, as earlier mentioned. So other contributing factors are like lack of access to sexual education and lack of parental guidance, among others. Next slide. So on knowledge on accessing SRHR services, studies showed that most teenagers knew where to get the services from, but very few, and most of them went to hospitals to get the services from there, and most of them, majority were females. Others got the services from schools, others got the services from their friends, but there was a discrepancy in that some showed that getting this information from friends and peers was actually notoriously poor, but males, most of the time, got correct information from their friends. And females had a hard time communicating with their parents when it came to talking about matters in SRHR. So in conclusion, the Kenyan teenager generally seems to portray scanty knowledge and poor attitude on matters SRHR, and more efforts need to be placed to target the same. Next slide. So on our recommendations, we recommend reviewing policies that support CSC, comprehensive sexual education programs, and ensure their sustainability by sustained resource allocation to these programs, and ensuring availability of its specific scientific comprehensive information, tailoring the STI prevention strategies to meet the adolescents' needs, and ensuring adolescent-friendly STI management services. These are my sample references, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We appreciate the work you do. I think it's a challenge for us. When I was in fourth year, when I was a student, and I was in fourth year, I was doing a lot of research into pediatrics and IMED. And I read papers, I never wrote them. So that's a good challenge on us, especially some of us who are not yet in fourth year, right? We can start and build databases for our own use. You can see some of the references she was using. They are 2009, and that is right, because when you go to Google Scholar PubMed, we don't have publications in Kenya. And thank you so much for building our database, and it's a challenge for all of us, right? So thank you so much. We can appreciate her better. Unfortunately, some of us don't have good sight like mine. There's a problem. There's a problem with the slides being a little small. So you can log into our YouTube channel, Respekt, follow the stream, and you can read the slides right from your phone. This is the only time we allow you to use your phone nice and easy.